You wait all day to do a show, you change its time 3 times, and you still end up running a couple of minutes late wondering, I got a bunch of stuff here. I really want to talk about it. Anyway, welcome. Welcome to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Is this the last 4th of July? Did you have a good time? Did you celebrate everything that they taught you? Everything the world and the mob run governments of the world? Did you enjoy their holiday today? Did you think America was free today and the ends justified the means? I don't have time to get into it all. I got some tabs pulled up. I got some screenshots of what I've been doing. And it's gonna take up all your time, all my time. But it is gonna be so worth it. This is going to be important right here because I'm going to be looking at some videos here, YouTube. All right. And everywhere around the United Kingdom, especially you BBC. You fall into this too. You BBC people that always try to block everything. BBC One, BBC Two. Yeah, he's back in the picture. The original Casino Royale, as I had the other things about the Erie Canal I wanted to talk about. I ran into this guy because Ian Fleming, I think I have that video pulled up. If not, we'll look it up if somebody reminds me. He knew Ian Fleming and so there's the Erie Canal. That's what the boats were, and that's where they were. This building here is this. Pretty sure that's what they're showing. This is a good video. We might watch a few portions of that. The only negative I drew, and of course it's not a big deal, but RJ sent me some things about these three. They look like the Allstate symbol when they're painted red. Here's what they look like. The best picture I could get from that video. And he didn't mention that has kind of a Moorish flair there in Syracuse, New York. That's like, Tanzania, I would think, hey, look at that. Morocco, yeah. It's that red white. It's that red white, red arch, Oh, kind of a double exposed this screenshot. To all the towns in between there and Lake Erie. 363 miles, I think, is what they're trying to tell you. Right through the middle of town. So the building that we're going to be looking at from the new up and coming star, I think, of boots on the ground, millennial reign. This building here. What's going on with the Erie Canal? And I was just thinking, like, you know what? My second video on Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age Past, the previous one, was about the Erie Canal. And it's the gift that keeps giving to us because it's like this, to prow you a cipher, the most fine figure. A zero is called a cipher back in the day. The shepherd's note, and therefore like a cipher, yet standing in rich place. Add one many thousand. So I guess William Shakespeare was big on promoting the zero. They didn't really have a name for it. They called it the cipher. I saw this, one of my favorite channels that did a fright, the ire at Eigencourt. I think that, that's King Arthur or something. Oh, pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place a million, and let us ciphers to this great accomplishment. So there it is, Sir Francis Bacon, you know it. Ciphers. There was no zero until what they say in the 1400s, 1500s. That's what they call the 16th century. There was no X marked the spot. Good job on that screenshot. Could be more fuzzy, but I don't know how. Cipher, cipher, cipher. Cipher. Huh? What? At least he did put in, this is an example only. I do not endorse after 34 AD. Okay, what? I looked at this video today. No comment. True Steam Media put out a good video today. Look at all these famous people that go to Bilderberger meetings. Gee whiz. Hey, that's George Shultz. Of course, there's John McCain. I think he ran for president of the United States of America. Check this out. Get a little background on it.
Was established in 1827. The Erie Canal, which would be opened in 1825, would be imperative to this establishment. Syracuse would be the Erie Canal's roughly half.
That's where that building is, that one dude that's doing such a good job does. This Rochester is where I like to focus on because that's just so cool up there.
Halfway point between its western terminus at the Great Lakes via the Niagara River and its eastern terminus at the Hudson River. Aside from being a stop on the canal, Syracuse would be in possession of a valued and
here we go. Now here's the news of why it can do. Did you know that they had a salt stream? I mean, they're not near the ocean as far as I can tell, but they had a salt stream and they boiled it down and sold the salt. And I guess, they didn't build those big fancy buildings until way after they built the Erie Canal. Wink, wink. Nudge,
at the
nudge.
time, less common resource in salt. Rather than it needing to be obtained through the labor-intensive process of mining, Syracuse salt would be obtained through its several saltwater springs, from which the water would be collected, boiled, and then the salt would be left.
Boil it.
The
Look
salt
at they got
industry,
boiling
combined with the
machines.
ability to ship it via the
Wow,
canal,
hold
and
on,
eventually
what?
the railroads.
So they were doing the salt way back in the 1400s. No, I'm just kidding. It was like the 1800s, early 1800s though. But this is much later, and there's still salt's big. All of this is Syracuse salt. Several salt streams. What's going on over here? Maybe that's why the Indians did that. These are mounds. Syracuse Indians. I'm thinking, Syracuse. Seneca. Their tree is gone. I think the Syracuse tree is a very important thing in Greek. Click.
Another major industry would all help to put Syracuse on the map in its early history. Syracuse would even be nicknamed the Salt City and would be an early center of salt production in the United States. It would grow quickly through the late 1800s.
There it is again. There's that building, and he touches on this one. Now, this is the Erie Canal. The famous, worked all day on the Erie Canal, some song like that. And they built these things this close to it 50 years after they built the canal because, they couldn't build these until 1840, 1850. And this canal was finished in 1825, started in 1817, 7 years, 2 months.
Going from just over 28,000 in 1860 to just over 108,000 in 1900. As the late 19th and early 20th century came and went, so would the city's salt
Hey,
industry. Other sources of it
goodbye
would be found
salt.
in the mountains of the Erie Canal. The city would continue to grow. New products and industries would come into the
Oh, here
fold
we
in
go.
Syracuse. The census.
And this was all white man's world too. Sorry, you didn't know that we were under the one drop rule back then? That the United States was a like South apartheid country, you know. Drink out of a separate water fountain, you black people. Whites only. Or yeah. And then they're covering that up now. That's part of this big cover up. GM was there, Carrier, the air conditioners. Any more pictures? What's going on there today? They're rebuilding?
10. The loss of the many good jobs that the city once had would lead to high poverty rates, which continue through today with some of the highest in the nation.
Uh-oh.
Syracuse today sits at around 150,000 people,
That's a
and its
lot.
losses do appear to have leveled off, as there have been very slight increases of late. It is held up heavily today by its namesake university, which enrolls over 22,000 students.
Wow. Because Syracuse is a Greek thing. It is, you know, the groves of Academy. I believe they were Syracuse trees. That's like 19% confidence, I guess. We're going to switch gears now, but remember, this is what Erie Canal, regardless of the title. Am I sharing? Good. Hey, we got to get back to this commensalism. Doesn't that look happy? The turtle and the fish, long-term biological interaction, symbiosis. Hey, you know what? There are living things inside of you that their whole lives don't involve you. This is not a bad thing to be living in your eyelashes. These clean your eyelashes. These are my friends. My eyelashes get cleaned by them every night. It's that same weird craziness of what are those bed bugs? They can actually tell when you go to sleep and then they come out. Those dear Dominex, what's the word for that? How would you pronounce that? Demodex. Demodex folliculorum is a microscopic mite that can survive only. It was made to clean your eyelashes because you're a magnet. Your eyelashes can work like a spider's eyelashes, for crying out loud. I've been trying to tell you. So, you know, I've told that, you know, like if Luther or Marcella or somebody who's around that, you know, they'll hear this before. It's not a parasite living in you. It can only live in the skins of humans. It can get infected if you know, what you use the wrong chemicals on your eyelash liner or whatever that you got going there. You can get infected, but it's your helper. It's your friend. And they live their life in 14 to 16 days, but they have children. And then yeah, it's true. But they say it was discovered in 1841, and he just saw a little squished bug. And it wasn't until 1972 that they went, what? There's another little one? So, really, how old is it? You know, these things live in us. They clean our eyelashes. That's their job. They don't do anything. They don't live on dogs. They only live in humans, and they clean your eyelashes if you're ready to tune your spider senses. Otherwise, you could be polluting it enough to where they just have to poke their head up and eat because there's, you know, your eyes are clogged up, and it goes right back, you know, What is the commensalism again? I'm going to go back to the top, but I do want to read this one thing, that numerous genera of bacteria and fungi, like they live on the human body. They were made to. They are a part of its natural flora. Now, I remember when I got my second vision, and I don't remember, that's why it's a shame that they took all the videos down from Flat Earth Nation. We explained it all. We went through it. The first day after the vision that morning, I got out that book that nobody understands and no languages. And I said, oh, they're showing the gut flora, the plants and animals that live in the body. You're looking, and they're all looking, the Voynich manuscript, that's what it is. They're all looking for them outside in nature. And I was explaining, thank you, Lord, I get it. It's what's going on inside the body. Commensalism. We all got to do it. We all got to beat our swords into plowshares and learn to work with not only our body symbiotically, but with all of the species. Realizing, yeah, we're going to eat some of them, but that doesn't mean you treat them like crap. They know what they're for. If they're happy, this is what they do. Sharks, right attached, these type of fish attached to sharks. They feed on their poop. What? Oh my goodness, this is okay. Well, all right. The human biome is microbiome is a crazy thing, But these are all living things that they don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they're making milk or, making babies. They're just living their life. And they have pneuma. And you are being poisoned. You have to actively try to fight that poison all the time, man. I know. Not going to just wear you out on it again tonight. There shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations in all your dwellings. You shall eat neither fat nor blood. All right. Well, we know from that's Old Testament in Acts 15, because this Old Testament stuff was written to those Hebrews and they broke the covenant. The Gentiles, who the gospel was really preached to and for, like with everybody else in the world, along with the, what is that, the remnant of Hebrews. So now it's only the blood, because there's only 4 things that the Gentiles can't do. What the Hebrews told them, said, no, you can only don't do these 4 things. Instead, we should write and tell them to abstain from food polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from the meat of strangled animals, and from blood. This one here, I usually stop and mention, we didn't know about the meat of strangled animals, how it puts adrenochrome or other fear-based things, and craziness, right? So here's that real James Bond. Now, I've got this queued up, and I already showed my disclaimer. You're going to want to see this full screen, because this is a BBC special. Remember, BBC 4, BBC 5, BBC 1, 2, 3.
Nothing sinister.
Fleming based Bond's first great enemy, the prototype for all the Blofelds and Scaramangers to come, on the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley, whom he met during the Second World War.
He goes, hi, Aleister. I'm Ian Fleming. I'm going to write children's novels like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and spy novels, and I'm looking for a really bad guy. Can I interview you? Ian Fleming, you master spy, get in here. Have we got to talk about this German Nazi Rudolf Hess?
Tatsächlich ist lediglich meine Konzentrationsfähigkeit.
After the capture of leading Nazi Rudolf Hess in 1941, Fleming recruited Crowley as an interrogator based on reports that
You know, Mr. Crowley, I'm really looking for someone to interrogate flip-flopping Nazis that are trying to warn us that,
Hess was a believer in the occult. Fleming's superiors, though, were not impressed and quashed the idea. But Crowley's satanic views and intimidating persona provided ample inspiration for the evil Mashif.
he said, I'm the beast of revelation.
The creation of this much-loved secret agent.
This is my algorithm. I guess there's some storms coming up. We don't need that anymore. Uh-oh. Big storms, fires, deadly hurricanes. It switched course. I guess it's going to hit Texas now.
Beryl, the primary feature on the map, do want to acknowledge another tropical wave, Invest 96L. This one going to follow.
Dude, man, don't we? In 96L, what about this one? So,
back like that after landfall would be less of a concern for us. But another group of models, we were talking about that northward turn all week, want to turn this and basically parallel it along the coastline, which would mean that
remember that great Corpus Christi, or isn't that at or was it Galveston? Which one had the big wall? RJ has been busy, and thank the Lord for that. He sent me a couple of videos. This is one about the 9/11 attack. This one was pretty interesting. Oh, he just sent me another one at 9:10.
These ancient Chinese records show that Jesus Christ is.
Then God said, let us make man in our image.
神说：“让我们照我们的形象造人。”
The word make also means to create.
这个造就是创造的造。
Create in Chinese is the word 造。
中文的造就是这个创造的造字。
Now notice how you write this word.
注意到这个字怎么写啊
All right, this word is written this way.
这个字的写法是这样子。
There was speaking words.
首先有说话的告。
And as words was spoken, movement happens.
当这宣告说出，就有行动产生了。
So 走字旁 over words.
所以在这个告旁边是一个走字边。
And isn't it true when God spoke the word, living thing began to move?
不是这样吗？神一说话就开始活物出来了。
So right from the word create, you know that the creation story was recorded there.
从第一个创造的造字，你就看见创造的故事在里面。
And look at verse 22.
你看22节这里。
And God blessed them and saying, be fruitful and multiply.
神就赐福给他们，让他们生养众多。
Now, we all Chinese, we love this word bless.
所有华人都很爱这个字福。
Chinese New Year, we see this everywhere.
农历年到处都看到这个字儿。
You know, and sometimes we have this word pasted on our doors and our businesses because this word means good fortune.
不管是家门口、公司门口都贴这个字，为什么？福气就是好运呐。
Yeah, and we want good fortune to come to our families and come to our workplace.
希望福气好运能够到我们的家里面，到公司里来
And。sometimes we write it, we turn it upside down.
有的时候故意倒着贴这个字儿，
That means the blessings to flow.
代表这个福到了。
But what is prosperity in its original meaning to the Chinese?
可是对华人来说，福原本的意思是什么？
How do you write 福?
福这个字怎么写的？
Now watch, it is 神字旁, it is God.
你看到旁边这个士字旁是神的意思，
Together at one with a mouth.
有一口代表一个人的单位，
So God together with a soul, one mouth,
代表神跟一个人、一个灵魂在一起，
in a garden.
在田园里，
So that is prosperity.
这叫福分呢。
Prosperity to ancient Chinese is not just material wealth and money,
对古代华人来说，福分不光是金钱物质而已，
but it's for God and man to have a one relationship in a fruitful garden, in your fruitful family, or in your workplace.
是神跟人有
I don't know, if that turned it into a be happy, work in your family thing. But there is so many good things in here. Now, I think his best point was what happens when you're a Chinese and they go like, wait a minute, we got Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddha.
But you know what? The Chinese history stretches until 2500 BC.
华人的历史可以一直往前推到主前2500多年。
Now, Taoism came about 6 BC.
道教大概是公元前6世纪来的。
About the 5th BC, you have Confucianism, and you have, I spelled wrongly, Buddhism.
而大概在公元第5世纪的时候，有儒家跟佛教出现。
So the big question is, what about those 2000 years?
问题就在这中间2000多年呢。
Before Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism, what did the Chinese people believe in?
在道教、儒家、佛教出现之前，华人相信的是什么？
What is interesting is this. We have very clear historical records.
很有意思的，我们有非常清楚的历史记录在。
For the first 2000 years of their history, the Chinese people worship a singular supreme God and not many dozens or millions of deities.
在这2000多年当中，华人一直在敬拜的是一位独一的、最高主权的真神，而不是许许多多的神明。
They worship a God by the name of 上帝.
他们敬拜的这位叫上帝的神。
Today I'm going to write in my broken Chinese.
今天我要来练习我的中文字。
All right? Now, and this, when you read the historical records,
当你读到整个历史记录里头，
上帝 has exactly the same character, nature, and power as the God of the Old Testament.
实际上这位上帝跟我们旧约相信的神有同样的品格、同样的性情、同样的能力。
But while the Hebrew people called him Yahweh or Jehovah,
虽然犹太人把他称为耶和华或雅卫，
the Chinese people from the beginning call him 上帝, the king that lives above the Most High God.
华人却把这位神称之为上帝。
All right. So you get the idea. It's like, I'm not, it's not the book of Enoch. It's not that they're going like, oh, look, here's extra scriptures or something like that. Hey, you guys, how you doing? Yes, salt is one of those, because salt is a rock too. And if all rocks are body parts, muy bien, gracias. Hola, Sergio, ¿qué pasa? You just found a saltwater spring? That's so cool. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Yeah, I've studied bed bugs because when I was in that Warriors Rescue, there were bed bugs there, and I was worried, because I didn't come in with bed bugs and I didn't want to leave, and I didn't, but I'd studied them a lot, and it's weird the way they can tell when you go to sleep or if you're faking or it's something else. And I guess bed bugs and pestilence are coming back big. It's absolutely crazy. There are some crazy water, and it's named Crazy Water from some town in Texas. Tommy found it, and there was a time when he showed me old newspaper articles and stuff where they were selling it for $60 a glass. That'd be the equivalent price today for water. Because believe it or not, constipation used to be one of the biggest things. And I guess it still is for the people who think, a Snicker bar a day doesn't hurt, or something, whatever they're thinking. Who knows? The real casino. Okay, we went over that. I wanted to show you there's one other thing from Randy. Not much of this because, I don't know what he's talking about.
I recently got a letter through
He's a doctor.
the post inviting me to enroll my youngest child into a new mRNA vaccine trial. So I thought I'd share some details of this trial with you because it's very important medical news. And I found out,
because I'm not a doctor, I don't know what he's talking about.
As a parent. As a doctor, I was unaware that babies were now being recruited for new mRNA trials. This is
because I'm already lost. How can a baby give informed consent? I was just confused. This whole video is confusing.
a Moderna trial, and I think it's fair to say Moderna has a pretty good relationship with the UK government, as evidenced by their 10-year partnership surrounding mRNA research and development, and also that the Deputy Chief Medical Officer of England...
That's one dose. They just said they get 250 million a year. It's a big number.
Are still struggling to sort out basics like proper nutrition, an essential aspect in effectively fighting off infectious diseases.
I'm all about, sweat stretch and eat organic, non-GMO. Just do as good as you can. Hey, do you notice they put out a lot of, like Whole Foods is not good organic food. That's just, do your best. Do the best you can, get some good food and eat it. Eat the best food you can. Don't let them talk you, oh, Whole Foods sold some food that's supposed to be bad. I guess I'm going to never eat healthy again. Okay. Hey, wow. This boardwalk empire talked a lot about Lucky Luciano. The mafia basically took over the United States and the world during World War II. Nothing could happen without them.
Ways to get a tan than picking losers.
Hey, you're telling me. My last horse is still running.
What's the word from Philadelphia?
Business as usual, near as I can tell.
There's a shipment on Thursday from Bill McCoy.
Knocky Thompson's still alive, so until we hear otherwise.
So these were all the clips from this boardwalk empire. And I was always wondering if they were going to show that when the Normandy got blown up and they started, the government let Lucky Luciano out of jail. And he helped lead the invasion of Italy because the Italians found out that the Nazis weren't going to consider them white, but only not Jewish.
Meyer. Nucky. Hello.
This is Meyer Lansky. He's the one who got Lucky Luciano out of jail. It's the Jewish mafia, the Irish mafia. It's the Tong. You ever heard of the Tong mafia? They all got them, and they're all bad.
I miss Sweet.
Been a while.
Hey-house funeral.
Sad day.
Rest his soul.
Brings you here.
Wife's been hawking me for a holiday.
Married.
Married. A son. Makes you concentrate on the future. Oh, we should all.
We should.
So I think, we've got to start looking at like everything from the 1950s, 58 on, and that Education Act where they founded DARPA and NASA in an Education Act and called it a National Education Defense Act, or National Defense Education Act, 1958. This is a massive cover-up, and we're going to have to wrap our minds around it. In the meantime, we got people out there doing wonderful work. Just check this. We won't watch all 20 minutes, but we're going to look at a good piece of it because this guy's, I think he's on it. Love it. Hey, where's that internet?
Completely stone. Just incredible. And right on the canal, with the canal still showing right here, the stones that are built as the edge of the canal. The canal went right through town. These stones are massive.
He does make a point that they averaged 1 mile a week for the 363 miles. Winters are pretty tough in upstate New York, in case you didn't know.
Yet they say they built a mile of canal in a week. So you'd have to dig it by hand, quarry the stones, cut the stones, and also place the stones for 1 mile a week to go 363 miles over 7 years and 2 months. And you can
The
see in
Liberty
this picture,
Pole. What? Hey, go back. Take that back a second for me. I want to read, see if we can't read that. I got to be quick on the stopper. Prior to 1950, Syracuse Irish Catholics were persecuted and hindered from attending church each year on St. Patrick's Day. An effigy of the saint was draped with potatoes, codfish, and empty bottles of whiskey and was hanged from the Liberty Pole. Huh. Stop doing it, they said. Receiving no response, he stopped at a hardware store, bought an axe, forced his way through the crowd, and calmly chopped down the flagpole. It was not until thousands of Irish Catholic immigrants came to the city in 1850 that the persecution diminished, and you can fly your empty whiskey bottles on the pole.
and you can see in this picture the building that we're looking
the
at with
building.
the tall tower and the one to the right, and how the canal
And the
goes
canal.
right in between
Kind of a
the
choke
building, and the
point, that,
bridges
like,
go
or is it
over.
the canal?
And that's what we're looking at right here. And of course, nothing is left of that.
It's
Just
gone by
meters and diagonal parking.
When we
Yeah,
take
see,
another look at these pictures,
do I have to remind you to let it wash over you that you can believe their story? I don't want you to. There's no surviving river boats on any of the canal boats. Like, there's no lifeboats from the Titanic. It was only like 100 years ago, 110 years ago.
not only were these canals said to have been built between 1817 and 1825, at a time when there was only manpower with shovels at a rate of...
Is he disrespecting manpower?
1 mile of canal being built per week. But these boats were said to have only been propelled by being pulled by horses or mules as they walked along on a track on the side. Look closely and see if you see any horses or mules or any way possible that could ever have happened. One barge is turning into the middle of the canal.
That is something I don't remember hearing when I first previewed this video, but that is the first time it's been brought to my attention. And I've done hours of videos and weeks of research. And in these pictures of Syracuse, I have not seen a horse. I'm going to take another look.
Built per week. But these boats were said to have only been propelled by being pulled by horses or mules as they walked along on a track on the side. Look closely and see if you see any horses or mules or any way possible that could ever have happened. One barge is turning into the middle of the canal right in the center of the picture. No horses evident.
This area was a grand area with bridges over the canal, these buildings right to the edge. It's all been filled in, completely asphalted over, and now it's diagonal parking with basically garbage cans sitting outside and nothing. Every section, the arches are all different stones cut perfectly. Below the arches, same thing. Below that, a different stone for the windows. Completely different size. And the carving with horse and a wagon. Yep. You do? Yep. A horse and a wagon? You know how much one stone weighs? No. Like, they'll have stones weighing 40,000 pounds. They got to cut the stones out, yep, bring them from like hours. Way. Yep.
You guys just so hungry, man. I want to go eat.
It was causing a divide in the city. It was an eyesore. It smelled. All these type of things, but they had
No
the
horse poop.
wherewithal and the knowledge to construct that at some point in history with aqueducts where the water flowed over on bridges. You can bet that it wasn't a stinky, smelly pond-like place, that they had the ability to make that water not. And you can see in this picture
There's a horse.
Huge amount of construction to build locks, and
It was a
basically
clean
guys
out.
standing around at a point where it's already been built. So
what a cover up.
The notion that that's actually when it was being built, there's really no proof of that. But that is what was built, and you
Look at
can
those
see
rickety railroad tracks.
perfect construction that's done with the stones. Contrasted with the horse
Unbelievable.
standing there and a guy standing there, but it's already all completed.
You know that guy that's standing on that cart?
Perfect.
This guy. Everybody gone surfing. That's how they did it.
But what we're looking at here is the timeline of when and by who. And this is a very large picture of the canal with the walls, just the massive walls that had to be built for the entire length. And the bridges. You can see this section here. And we're going to actually see those in real life when I go out to see some of them. But
you'll enjoy it. Some more scenes of that one thumbnail.
And park right next to the canal. And right past the City Hall building. And this is the way station from the outside.
There it is.
Would come in and go through. And not as deep any longer, but the building is intact just the same.
Well, how about that?
And from the outside, from the City Hall building there that we just saw, straight down the street, completely obliterated and gone, which totally hides anyone from much thinking about it at this point, except for the few that come to this museum.
Just check this out. Now, did I misspell the Caldera Cut? I think I did. Dang it. Talk about a showstopper. Well, at least it put the brakes on it for a second. I'm going to have to look this up on the Wikipedia. That's just going to take me the un momento. Now, there's this certain point where they had to cut through the solid granite, and they hadn't TNT at the time. No, the original canal. Let's look at that. When you see it, it's going to be worth this messing around because I feel like I'm not on the right spot. Let's go back to the history. Cost-effective towpath. Now, I've always seen the horses, like you. There was these mountains and escarpment, and they had to dig through 7 miles of granite. This actually is one of the best pictures because it shows you, that here's Albany. They take off, and they have to do locks. Not a lot of straight parts here, is there? So this is what they cleaned out. They say they cut these out without dynamite. They had to remove all of this part in the mountain. Well, that's a pretty good straight shot. 96 miles, in this pretty good run. Now here's Syracuse. They had to step down and then go back up. There's a little scale of miles that you can see that's about 10 miles. A little bit more. Rolling back up. Now, is this the mountains here where they just had to, that's pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy. Let's look at one town in particular. Hopefully, I think they should have their Really? There's not a page for Lockport? Because they're stepping it up. All right. Well, I guess we're going to have to see the aqueducts. There's the Broad Street Bridge. There's one of the aqueducts. 9 Mile Creek. Whew. Some of these are absolute, and I'm just going to show you these abandoned ones here that are obviously no different than the ones in Europe. This was a worldwide cleanup. This is the Shahore. That's how come I always find that hard to pronounce. I think that Shaharai. Shahori. They have their own web page. There you go. Now, come on, people. Now, they tried to destroy them, but they were too well built, so they just said, "Let them rot," and they didn't rot. They didn't rot. That was a plan that, it would have sounded good. Sure, it was an old wooden fort in 1711. By 1817, they said, let's clean out the stone canal. And there's the Shaharai aqueduct showing the canal way. They tore it down and said, you know what? This is just not cost effective. Look at the size of these stones. Pullman Canal Store, Lock 28. For those keeping track at home. If anybody's keeping track at home. This is another one. Rochester, New York. Built in 1842, if you want to believe it. We're going to be happy in heaven. On earth, they're coming for you. You're going to be encompassed about. You got to strive to make it. Be faithful unto the end. Look, I'm giving tours. And the question is, how did we do it? And the answer is, nobody knows. And we're trying to fake a whole history. It seems like since 1958, because Satan was loosed in 1711 in the Gregorian calendar, what I believe is 1666 in the Julian calendar. I don't believe that the Julian calendar was only switched by 11 days. Not at all. Not at all. Thank you all for tuning in. That's where it's at right now. Is this the last 4th of July? Let's face it. I mean, I don't like abortion, but I don't like Trump either. And I think that putting all your eggs in one basket, it's not if something's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And when it happens, will you be ready? There's only one place to be ready, right here, Flat Earth Nation. You should start taking care of the symbiont in you. Commensual things, cleaning your eyelashes at night. You can help them. You can be one with them. Your eyelashes can be like spiders. You can read somebody's aura, and if they don't believe you, well, it's bad. You're in the spirit full time almost, and it's right there for you. And where? Oh, right here on Flat Earth Nation. With its golden age past, because the mud flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else. Me and my friends are never going to let them tell us anything else, because we're one called, two chosen, three faithful. Trying to prove it by showing we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci, ciao, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, nakame, adios, amigo, hasta luego, kaya man.